All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you, welcome. My name is Patrick, Halos and Heroes, and Megadog has requested Sabaton, Lady of the Dark. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and at some point tomorrow I will have some new material up as well. So without further delay, let's get started.
It's 1964 in Belgrade, Yugoslavia. It's been 50 years since the start of World War I. Events are happening across the country, but here in Belgrade, at the Monument of Gratitude to France, a ceremony is taking place alongside French, British, and American dignitaries.
I already like the concept of the video. The animation that they have is great. The storytelling is very captivating, and you know, in a lot of ways, like with the storm and stuff, you can kind of feel like you're there.
Many of whom have given service in a war that ended not 5 years earlier. The veterans, officers, and dignitaries are seated ready for the ceremony to begin. An old lady, dressed in a long black coat, shuffles towards the front and takes her place in the front row. The men stop talking about their exploits in the war as curiosity gets the better of them. Who is this old lady dressed in black, sat in the middle of all these great men and heroes? Underneath her hat, the woman's eyes are like steel, but she allows herself a smile as the men's conversation turns to her.
It's amazing what happens when we come across a female veteran. We sit as men and we talk about the quote-unquote good old days, the old boy network, if you will. Sometimes we forget there are females fighting alongside us, and we take for granted that they have to work even harder, and they get a lot of crap.
Eventually, with curiosity getting the better of him, an American officer leans in towards her and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, but who are you, and why are you here?" The old woman says nothing. She simply stands up and removes her coat. The dignitaries' mouths drop open in shock. This old lady has a chest full of medals like nothing they've ever seen before. Medals for bravery. The officer stammers, Excuse me, ma'am, I meant no offense. You have obviously shown your bravery on the battlefield. Can you tell me your story?" The old lady smiles, and her eyes appear younger as she says, "Well, gentlemen,
Gather round. Let me tell you of the times when women like me were not allowed to fight for our country and our freedom. But I did, anyway."
And there you have it. Yeah. There was a time when women were relegated strictly to nurses or admin clerks. They weren't even allowed in the intelligence field. And now the women are proving to be some of the toughest assets we have. Look at the Lioness programs where they go out into villages where the women aren't allowed to speak to men, and they're their own line of defense against both men and women in a hostile environment.
In November 1914, Austro-Hungarian troops invaded Serbia. They have reached the Kolubara River. The elite Serbian Iron Regiment are one of many valiantly defending their homeland from the foreign invaders. The Iron Regiment's assault bomber squad of shock attack troops has a commander that's tough, battle-hardened, and a fierce fighter. Milunka Savić, a woman in a man's uniform, has proven again and again her bravery and determination. Her expertise with grenades makes her a match for any man, and she is both feared and respected. The Serbs are outnumbered and overwhelmed, and despite the pleas from her comrades, she decides to cross no man's land. Armed with a rifle and 3 bandoliers of grenades, she's determined to take the fight to the enemy.
That is a great place to pause it right there. Look at that. Like I was just saying, I know some pretty tough women, some pretty dedicated veterans, and I can assure you that our military is not just comprised of the finest men in the United States, but also the finest women.
The norm is the girl in uniform, fighting side by side with men. She will fight until the end. Like to be respected and to change her brother's fate. Took a bullet to earn her freedom and a place among the stars. And she served the Iron Squadron, served the toughest of them all. No fear of dying, for the front line she was born. Sacrifice, she took her brother's place. War to war, a place where she belonged.
She took her brother's place. And she took over. Wow. I'm listening to the story. That's one thing I love about this. Let's talk about the musicianship for a minute. The instrumentation on this is absolutely stunning as always. I don't think I could ask for a better song on this. I love the way these guys do it. You'll definitely be getting more Sabaton from me. Who shall be remembered in the ancient house of war, all the medals, all those stories, in the alley of the greats. Celebrated hero who has wandered through the dark, she stands before you, all that metal shining bright. Lost in time, returning to the light, bow before this lady fighting for her life. So, sister, raise your hand for the lady of the dark, soldier with no will to kill, with a philanthropic heart. Forever. Break the norm, she's the girl in uniform. Fighting side by side with men, she will fight until the end. Lied to be respected and to change her brother's fate. She took a bullet, earned her freedom and a place among the stars. And she served the Iron Squadron, served the toughest of them all. No fear of dying, for the front line she was born. Sacrifice, she took her brother's place. War to war, a place where she belonged. Raise your hand for the lady of the dark, soldier with no will to kill, with a philanthropic heart. Break the norm, she's the girl in uniform. Fighting side by side with men, she will fight until the end. Don't fear the reaper, don't fear the war. She spared the life of brothers. She'll fight for honor. She'll fight for life. A lady goes to war. Raise your hand for the lady of the dark. Raise your hand for the lady of the dark. Soldier with no will to kill with a philanthropic heart. Break the norm, she's the girl in uniform. Fighting side by side with men, she will fight until the end. How many of you out there, honestly, and this is rhetorical, you don't need to answer. How many of you out there, given a clean bill of health and the ability to do anything, would still choose to join and fight for your military?
Until the end.
That's some respect right there. A lot of respect. And knowing that she's wounded, knowing that she's injured, just makes her angrier. It makes her want to fight more.
Your hand for the lady of the dark. Raise your hand for the lady of the dark. Soldier with no will to kill with a philanthropic heart. Break the norm. She's the girl in uniform. Fighting side by side with men. She will fight until the end.
I like that key change in the last chorus. Key changes are used to emphasize the ending of the song usually, or the important part of the song. It became a commercial exploit when it came to groups that were boy bands, but I think that bands like Sabaton and other power metal or symphonic metal bands use it appropriately. Because it does, it makes that part of the song stand out more due to it being a shift in what we've heard throughout the rest of the song. So, good job. I love this video so far. Let's go ahead and finish it out.
After the battle, the new commander of the Iron Regiment asked in front of the regiment, "Which soldier or non-commissioned officer deserves the highest military decoration of Serbia, the Order of the Star of Karađorđe, for their part in the Battle of Kolubara?" A cry went up among the men.
Milunka.
Milunka Savić. Milunka Savić. Milunka Savić. Milunka, the Lady of the Dark. Milunka was informed in hospital of the award. She quickly returned to the front lines. This was just the start of her career. Milunka Savić became the most decorated woman soldier in history.
Imagine that. Showing up to an event like this, being as humble as she was, just sitting there, knowing that she's about to be the topic of discussion. Everybody's going to want to know why she's there, why she feels she deserves to be there. And she doesn't even have to say anything. She just stands up and she's like, and lets her actions speak where her words couldn't or wouldn't. And then goes on to tell them the story of how much of a badass she really is. But she'd already proven that with the awards that she presented. I mean, that is humility at its finest. Knowing full well that no one believes you have a right to be there. Proving them wrong just with the actions portrayed. And then recounting the story as if it were a Sunday walk in the park.
With medals from several nations for her bravery. Milunka Savić, Lady of the Dark, bomber of Kolubara, and the most decorated woman in history, finished her days living a quiet life in Serbia and passed away in 1973.
Wow, that was incredible. Well, guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate every one of you. I will be pushing as hard as I can to reply to comments, getting more videos out. As I stated before, bear with me if I don't post for a day. It's nothing personal. I did get accepted into the PTSD program, so there are going to be some days where I just don't want to be on camera or be around people, probably. Doesn't mean I love you any less. I still love you. I care. And I want you to know you're not alone. Thank you for being here.